off of that, Brent Pry was on a teleconference a little while ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he talked about the grading system he uses, a 0, 1, or 2 scale. Is that all across the board, or is that just linebackers?
No, it's
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's across the board. That's kind of how we grade. So on Sundays, we'll get in there. Typically, everybody should have the film graded on their own. And then we come in, and I watch it with the defense at 10 a.m., then I watch it with the offense at 11 a.m., and then we watch it special teams at 12:30. So what happens a lot of times is your grades are pretty much done, but like anything, once you watch something a second time, you might find some other things like that. And a 0 for us is you didn't get the job done. We can't win with what you did on that play. A 1 is you got the job done, but we would have liked maybe for your technique or your execution to be a little bit better. And then a 2 is a clinic tape. This is exactly how I'd want it done. I could show a younger player, this is how it is, and then we average that, obviously, whatever the grade is. And then each coach, depending on what position it is, and typically how far you are from the ball, affects what would be considered a winning grade at that position.
Special teams as well?
Yes, sir.
And when you say far from the ball, it's like where the play ends up?
Yeah, what I'm saying is if you're an offensive guard, and there's not a play that you're ever going to have off, your grade's probably going to need to be a little bit, your grade can be a little bit lower and still be considered a winning grade. If you're a corner on the backside of the play and 15 runs were just away from you and you're just running the backside, it's a lot easier to get a 2 on that grade than it would be a guard that's in there battling every single play. Does that make sense? So there could be a different grading scale by position on what is considered a winning grade, if that makes sense. And then there's also, the defense does a production grade as well. So basically, how many plays did you make? Tackles, interception, batted the ball down, those types of things.
You said last week.
About a third of the way through the season. Where are you condition-wise and that sort of thing, given some of the travel challenges and different things that you have to do in the field?
I think we're in really good position. And I actually would say we've modified it. We've always tried to say that we're going to get our running in during practice, but then we typically would condition after practice as well, and we're not doing that. I really want to get that conditioning during practice, be out here on the field and maximize, rather than using the time for conditioning, use it for running plays, and do it with a really good tempo and get it done that way. And then the only way we'll run is at the end of practice, basically putting pressure on the kickers, punter, kickers, things like that we'll do. I think we're in pretty good shape. I think the weather in this part of the country helps as well.
Is there a reason that it sounds like you've done things a little differently in the past? Is there a reason for that?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a little bit of our numbers in depth, but I would say more than that, to be honest with you. It's just 4 years experience and kind of looking back at some things that I thought we needed to at least evaluate and make some adjustments possibly.
You said last week the linemen were hesitant to be the first one to make the call. Have you seen more of that these last couple of weeks out of practice? Has Coach Hand seen more of that? And how do you think they did on Saturday?
Yeah, I think we're making strides there. There's no doubt. I think it's another example of leadership. No different than what they're doing in the locker room or on campus or out on Saturday night. You're going to have to make the call. You got to be willing to speak up and say something in front of the group, and that call is going to affect all the way down the line. So if you make a call and that affects the tight end and the tackle working to the Sam linebacker, now that tells the guard and the center what they're doing to the Mike linebacker. Does that make sense? And how they're working together, and then the backside guard and tackle to the Will linebacker. So it's coordinated. So if he doesn't make that call, now these guys may be working to the Sam, and then it throws everybody off. Now we got 2 double teams working to the same linebacker. Does that make sense? So it's those things that we're trying to kind of get coordinated, everybody on the same page.
Hey James, at previous institutions, what have you done in the off week, traditionally?
That's a good way to ask the question. That's a good way to ask it, or saying, well, maybe I'm not going to answer that question. I got no problem answering that question. But the problem is I haven't gone over that with the players yet, and I want them to kind of understand the schedule first before I kind of put it out on the with the media. So I'll be happy to get that to you guys later. Maybe Jeff, if you guys are interested, I'll go over that on Sunday with the players, and after we've gone over the schedule, then I got no problem. If you're interested in schedule, Jeff can get that to you. But I don't want them to read what the schedule is, because same thing, if they asked in a team meeting, I wasn't going to answer it until after the game's over.
They didn't ask as well as I did, though, did they?
No, but it was pretty. I was sitting there saying that was a good way to ask. I might answer that one.
Gino's got almost half of his yards on the third down in his home. What do you think it is about his playing style that enables him to get that separation on those plays and maybe kind of have that trust with Christian for him to look for him on those plays where you need big yards?
You know, what's funny is I wouldn't necessarily say he gets separation. You know, the thing that he has, he's got really strong hands, and he doesn't go down easy. And he doesn't go down easy, so he's able to drag people for yardage, or a lot of times he's able to break free. I wouldn't say, you know, that's necessarily what he does is get separation. He's a big, strong, powerful receiver, and that's kind of his game. You know, that's something that we're working on right now with his route running and his explosion to get more separation.
And he said that he has his hands in buckets of rice, kind of doing that to strengthen his hands. Is there anything else you guys do with receivers to kind of help out in that regard to get those?
Well, I think Coach Galt does a lot of things in the off season. A lot of people use wraps when they're lifting, and we try to do as much of the stuff without wraps. So you're working on that those hand strengthening and the forearms and things like that. But not a whole lot. I think, you know, Gino and our receivers do a great job. We got jugs machines set up in the weight room as well. So, you know, during the day they can come over on their own and shoot the jugs machines at each other and catch balls, and they've done a good job of that all offseason.
You had mentioned yesterday that Northwestern's offense uses a lot of up-tempo stuff. Do you expect to use more players and because of that, or do you expect to increase reps? I know you talked about that mostly Friday, but just your initial impression today. Do you expect to use more because of that?
No, that's part of the reason why we want to play a bunch of guys all year long, to kind of get our guys used to that and the limited amount of plays that you're going to be on the field. We did do some tempo periods today to try to help with that. But no, you know, the best way to stop a tempo team is to get 3 and outs and get them off the field. And then those plans could backfire on you, because instead of wearing out the defense, now you're off the field pretty fast, you know, if you're able to create 3 and outs with a tempo team.
You said last week when I asked about Deshaun Winston, the interesting sense of style. Could you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Have you seen his hair?
I've seen the hair, but I didn't know if, you know.
He's kind of got a box, but they're kind of like sticking out all over the place on his head. He's kind of his own man, which I appreciate about him. Yeah, you know, his hair and kind of his dress and style. And he's kind of his own man, which I like.
Hey, the Hacks cadence, he's been able to draw a couple of trophy penalties this year. You being a former quarterback, how do you appreciate that? Was your cadence is that like was your cadence that well when you were at East Stroudsburg? And have you worked with him on that at all? What makes it so fun?
Yeah, I would never put James Franklin as a quarterback and Christian Hackenberg as a quarterback in the same sentence. I didn't do anything as well as he does. I think that's one of those things that I would say that to the average fan, it goes unnoticed, the value in keeping the defense off balance in terms of using different cadences. And the other thing that we do a lot with our cadences is trying to get the defense to show where the pressure may be coming from, is the other reason why we changed the cadence up.
Hey James, I'm dominating, but do you like that? Besides Urban, coming into the league, did you know any of the other head coaches at all? I mean, and have you had a chance, 1 or 2 coaches meetings, get to know any of the guys?
Yeah, you know, like a lot of professions, just like your guys' profession, I knew most of them already. Some better than others, but most of the guys, you know, I knew to a degree. Coaches, conventions, kind of coming up through the ranks. You got buddies that have worked on their staffs. You got to know them that way. But I've known most of them to some degree.
Pat too?
Yeah, actually, Pat was a GA at Maryland right before I was there. And then Bob Hefner is their Superbacks coach. Me and Bob were together at the University of Maryland when I was with Ron Vanderlinden. Bob was the offensive coordinator there, so there's a lot of ties. So I've known Fitz for a long time.
Coach, over the last 9 months, I mean, this is more of an off-field question, just for you, how would you, taking a step back, evaluate the way you and your family have transitioned to where you guys are now? I mean, we see your wife and your kids out there before every game, and how's that, and after the game too, how's that transition been for you guys?
It's been good. You know, our kids love school. They're doing really well there. We just moved into our house yesterday. I wouldn't say we're settled, but we did just move in, so that's been helpful. You know, I would say, you know, give us another month or 2, but I know our kids, they love it here. The schools have been great. You know, we got a really close staff, and I think that's one of the things you guys have heard me mention before. The fact that 15 of us came together, it's not just the coaches that get the support. Our wives support one another. Our kids are all friends. So that, I think that really was helpful. And then you got Terry, who's very familiar with Penn State. So I think all those things have been really, really helpful.
What was it like getting into the house finally after all those months of living apart and then living in these hotels and offices and everything else?
Yeah, it's been great and it's been good, but there's still boxes everywhere. So, you know, I wouldn't say we're kind of moved in yet. There's still construction going on, you know, so it's nice to kind of walk into your own door, but I wouldn't say it's anything that you'd be comfortable with. There's no couch to sit down on yet.
We're going to talk to Gaddis tomorrow, and he's a younger guy. You guys have a pretty younger staff anyway, but I know there was a video out there, I think over spring ball or maybe even the summer, of him running a 40. Is he pretty competitive with these guys on a day-to-day basis, and how would you say that that's kind of helped some of these receivers at this point?
I think the staff overall is very competitive. I wouldn't say that any of our coaches, including Gaddis, is competitive with the players in terms of those types of things. That was more a guy who played in the NFL that we thought couldn't run under a 5.0, and he was saying he could still run a 4.5, and we were questioning it.
Like a 4.9, wasn't it?
No, he ran pretty good. I think he ran a high 4.5 or something like that. He ran pretty good, which kind of surprised me. But that's just the staff kind of having fun and egging each other on, and you know, not trying to give him any credit for his cup of coffee he had in the NFL.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.